Got it. Cool. We are live on Facebook. I will hit,
I got it.
you got
Oh,
record?
nope.
Okay. I will hit record to the cloud and we are good to go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Smart with Your Money Live. I'm Chase Peckham, the Director of Community Outreach and Education at the San Diego Financial Literacy Center, the education arm of Debt Wave Credit Counseling. Super excited to be here, considering I just got back from a doctor's appointment. Didn't know if I would make it, but I am so happy to be here to join my colleague, Felipe Aravallo, excuse me. Let's do that one more time. Felipe Aravallo. And we're going to talk about freeing Britney. No, not really. Just a part of it, but there is a method to the madness. It does have something to do with finances, and it's basically conservatorships and then the abuses that can come with it.
Absolutely. And really the Free Britney movement kind of brought it into the forefront, into the limelight, into social media world, where some people didn't even know what conservatorships were or that they were a thing. And that just the popularity of it itself kind of catapulted into the conversation, and we'll cover some other celebrity ones and how many there are around the country and things like that. So we'll get started. First, what in the world is a conservatorship? Where a conservatorship, according to Investopedia, is a legal status in which a court appoints a person to manage the financial and personal affairs of a minor or incapacitated person. Sometimes they go kind of hand in hand with guardianship, which is, the guardian doesn't have to be the conservator. They can be, but they don't. And guardianship is more of like the taking care of the well-being of the individual or the person, whereas the conservatorship is taking care of the everything else financial components of it. So sometimes if you have a different guardian than a conservator, there may be some checks and balances, but if the same person is both, that kind of removes that checks and balance system and can make things a little bit dicey. So they're generally not the same, but one person can serve both roles. And this is a court thing. This isn't like a, random person can jump in and do it. There's no official database of the amount of conservatorships in the United States, although the DOJ did report in 2017 that approximately 1.3 million active guardianships or conservatorships were in the United States, and that was at least 50 billion in assets under those conservatorships as well. So that's a lot of money. And that's a lot of people that, are under a conservatorship. And that causes the possibility for lots of issues as well. To make it even more confusing, the states make the rules, and not all states make the same rules as with everything else. So the conservatorship here in California, at least, sorry, my dog got a new squeaky toy, and of course she decided that now would be the good time to start squeaking it. Ignored it all day until now. But there's two different types of conservatorships. You have the general conservatorship and then a limited conservatorship. General one is where the conservator has all the powers, responsibilities, and the limited one is just that it's strictly limited to the 7 specific powers that, and you can learn all about it in the California courts thing, but I'm not going to go over all the different court things. So there's different types. And then if you go to Tennessee, they have different rules. If you go to, Texas, you're going to find different rules. So it's really dependent on, they're all very similar, but they're all at the same time unique in their own way. So what happened to Britney? So Britney Spears experienced very public breakdowns in 2007. And the reason we're concentrating on her so much is because this is kind of what brought it into the limelight. Yeah. Right. What happened in 2007, she had a lot of mental breakdowns. She checked in a psychiatric hospital twice in '08. Inspirational mugs like that one right there, which happens to be this one right here. My wife is a big Britney Spears fan growing up, so I have lots of Britney stuff laying around. But so in 2008, her father petitioned in the LA Superior Court for an emergency temporary conservatorship. And then in October, then he petitioned to make the court have the conservatorship be permanent. So basically he took control, him and an attorney took control of basically everything she could do, all her finances, and you know, that lasted for over a decade. So then fast forward, as he was controlling every aspect of her personal and professional life, collecting upwards of $1 million in those 13 years. In 2018 alone, he collected 128,000. You know, she couldn't make her own professional decisions, like when to record, perform, tour, all that kind of thing. She was, you know, a movement started. It started on a podcast or blog, you know, they can't figure out exactly where, but then the hashtag Free Britney started going, and because she has so many fans, it just kind of went, you know, where social media and today's world goes, and it just went everywhere. And you know, that was kind of there was documentaries being made, like or TV documentaries, and you know, it just kind of went all over the place. And the pressure that came with it, it eventually her dad agreed, the lawyer stepped aside, someone else came in, the dad stepped aside, and it just kind of all ended in November of 2021. So I guess the hashtag Free Britney movement worked. But you know, there's
a long time though. I mean,
that's a long time.
That's
yeah,
tough.
13 years, if my math is correct, which could be wrong. But yeah, there was the New York Times documentary, Controlling Britney, and it was just lots of craziness that was reported. How much of that was factual, since it never went to court, hard to say. But just the idea that that was all there, you know, made it very, very public. So after her conservatorship ended in 2001, she got married, got divorced, wrote a book. You know, seems to be doing well from the outside world. A book that my wife has pre-ordered. She pre-ordered back in July. I haven't pre-ordered a book in a long time, but she saw that and she's like, "Oh, that's great." Will I read it? Probably not, but maybe I'll get snippets from Sarah and see what happened. But she's not the only celebrity who's dealt with this, and it's not a new thing. So other celebrity conservatorships, you have Amanda Bynes. Her conservatorship ended in 2022. This has been going on. You got the Eagles, Randy Meiser, actually requested to be put on a conservatorship after the death of his wife. And this goes back into the 90s. You know, the Beach Boys, Brian Wilson, actually was suing his conservator back then in 1995 for $10 million. So this isn't a new thing. It's just, I think, brought more into the limelight, into the everyday conversation by the Britney Spears, and now that we have social media. But celebrities have been going through this, and then it was just kind of dying down, and we were getting ready for the SWYM Live, and I was like, man, we missed it. You know, everyone's done talking about conservatorships, and sometimes you get blindsided.
Blindsided. I see what you did there.
Yeah, you see that? So Michael Orr has recently been in the news. You might remember his story from The Blind Side. And he, in just last month, just a few weeks ago, did a court filing against the, I can't pronounce that, the Tuohys. Yeah, for apparently, he alleges that the conservatorship, it was abused because he didn't know that the conservatorship was in place, something to do with, he thought he was filling out adoption paperwork. They never actually adopted him, but instead he signed a conservatorship agreement denying him royalties from the blind side. So now there's court dates and court things going on. And people are alleging that it wouldn't have even been a valid conservatorship because in Tennessee, where that took place, they would have had to have shown that he was unable to care for his own finances and had some kind of mental something that would keep it from him. That wasn't really the case in his situation.
It's kind of sad.
It is. This is a good story and such a good movie. But
Well, he
now
was
it
a
has
good,
like a whole
great
different-
NFL player, and
He was like 8 years in the NFL.
Had a good young life. Yeah, tough.
Yeah,
It's kind of sad.
he's got a book coming out. He's on the road doing book signings and things. So the timing from a business standpoint seems interesting. That he had a criminal justice degree and just figured out he has under a conservatorship. It's sad because this is a public figure. And you start thinking about it, are there more non-famous people that are suffering through this that can't just go to the media? I mean, Michael Orr could call up ESPN, Fox, or whoever and jump on and get an interview, but Joe down the street might not be able to do so. That makes it kind of eye-opening, like, ooh, I don't know. And I don't know any Joes down the street. I just the name I threw up. But so conservatorship abuse. It occurs when a conservator fails to abide by the law and takes advantage of their position. There's many different ways this can happen. I'll go over the different types here and some of the common signs. Many of them are financial, which is why we're talking about it to begin with. It's much more common, the financial type of it, but other types will include obviously starting with financial exploitation, could be physical abuse in nature, and even mental oppression. This comes into play a lot when the victim is elderly. That's when it becomes especially more common. The U.S. Government Accountability Office released a report not that long ago that found that hundreds of cases of elder abuse are taking place in conservatorships. They did a study in 45 states for 10 years, and they found that over 5.4 million was exploited during that time from elders through their conservators.
So and I can't even imagine what it is when you add that with the power of attorney.
Power of attorney,
which power of attorney, completely different thing. Power of attorney is where it's just so we're not confused, because a lot of people have been handling their parents' affairs. I have got power of attorney of my father, and it's basically when if something happens to them and or they become incapacitated, you have the right to handle their accounts, pay their bills, do all that kind of stuff. Very similar, just not court appointed.
And the thing with the court appointed conservatorship is that under a power of attorney, if the other person is still able to, go and say, no, I don't agree with that,
they can change,
why
right?
are you buying so much in and out with my money? They can stop you from doing that. But under a conservatorship, because it's a court thing, that person has very limited recourse to say, stop buying double doubles with my money.
Right.
And now I'm hungry. I shouldn't have used food as an example. But it's a lot, it's widespread. And I know that there's probably a lot of it that goes unreported and undocumented because the person in the conservatorship, especially if they're elder or if they're actually incapacitated, can't really speak up for themselves. So it's sometimes what are the signs? You might have bounced checks, unusual or suspicious charges in the person, changes in the person's estate or estate plans, wills, that kind of thing. Unusual gifts that are given on behalf of the of the person who's the conservator. But really the person in the conservatorship is, you know, and I put the link up here. This is way back when we started SWYM Live. We might have to revisit it because I think I've gotten better at these financial and economic abuse signs. This is like one of our very first SWYM Lives, but you can go back and watch it and get more detail on some financial abuse and economic abuse signs. But you know, what can be done? You know, they can take it to the courts. That's really all that can be done. This is a legal court appointed conservatorship. You have to take it to the courts to have that removed, have that person changed or removed. So if you feel that someone is being abused or being a victim of a abusive conservatorship, your only option is to contact your local authorities and help that person get back into court to challenge that conservatorship.
For sure.
But that's really all you can do, unfortunately, because the conservator has been given that power to handle that person's finances. So obviously the Britney Spears thing was like way out there. The Michael Orr thing, how much of it ends up being, you know, proven or whatever the case may be, you know, how much he was exploited, that could be a big news story as well. You know, as a sports person and someone who likes finances, I'll be following that, see how that turns out. But any questions? If you're on Facebook watching this, our normal relay from Facebook system is down. So you'll have to leave us a comment and I'll definitely get back to you in the comment section, not live on the video, with potential answers. And then if there's no questions directly on here, so if you're watching on Facebook, leave the question. I'll come back and answer it later. You can always continue learning. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, at SDFLC, at least until they start charging, then you won't be able to follow us there. And TikTok, s.d.finlit. And YouTube and Facebook is the San Diego Financial Literacy Center. I post daily little less than 30 second clip on something somewhat personal finance related, some tips. Not going to get groundbreaking things, but you know, some of them might, you know, get you thinking about your personal finances. And it's less than 30 seconds. So I think I had one less than 15 seconds the other day. It's like, let's see how quickly I can talk.
I was pretty impressed. I laughed at it. I thought, oh my God, that's pretty impressive. In and out.
Really quick.
Speaking of in and out.
Make sure, I know now. See, now we're both hungry.
Yeah.
You can join us for SWYM Live in 2 weeks. We're back. Addiction and financial debt is a big one. You know, kind of linked to conservatorships in that some conservatorships started because of addiction, or the person being, you know, addicted to whatever it is. So addiction and financial debt, that's going to have a whole bunch of different types of addictions, from, you know, serious ones to just going to Costco and Amazon too much. You know, so join us, register, join us here, join us on Facebook. And thank you everybody for stopping by.
Take care.